Hello guys, this is Jerry speaking. Welcome to LJPCBM Reacts, episode number 543, and today we're reacting to Purple Roads Podcast, episode 28, John Burstein of Slim Goodbody. We'll react to this beginning in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
I'm Carey Stinson, and my journey through life has been quite an adventure. For over 20 years, I played Barney the Dinosaur on tour and 7 seasons of the hugely popular TV show Barney and Friends. Now, my journey is to bring together friends and guests from all over the entertainment world for inspiring and at times amusing behind-the-scenes conversation. I'm Carey Stinson, and this is Purple Roads.
Wow.
Welcome to another episode of Purple Roads. I'm Carey Stinson, and it's such a pleasure to have John Burstein, who played Slim Goodbody. And John, I'm so glad you're here. How are you?
I'm doing really well. It's absolutely gorgeous day in Maine. I live up in the country. I moved out of New York City 21 years ago from the heart of Manhattan to a mile down a dirt road on a lake. It's gorgeous. So I had a great day today.
How's the heat? I'm in Fort Worth, near Fort Worth, Texas, so it's near 100 here.
Ooh.
Wow.
No, we have the opposite problem here. You know, it's beautiful today, but come November, it starts to get really cold.
Oh,
Wow.
And so I actually have a house down in the Caribbean, and my wife and I move out from here nowadays, now that we can, you know, because I'm basically not doing too much work, just a couple of weeks a year as Slim. And we go down there, and it's super nice and beautiful.
Oh, I bet it's gorgeous. So let's talk about Slim. How did you come up with the idea of Slim Goodbody?
I was an aspiring actor in New York, and I had a summer job on a ship called the Floating Hospital, which was a charitable organization run by a group called St. John's Guild. It was originally a quarantine ship many, many years ago, but by the time I got to it, what they did was they took every day, Monday through Friday, disadvantaged people from around the city would come for a free ride on the boat. And
Wow.
on the boat, the floating hospital, there were doctors, nurses, audiologists, eye doctors. It was a sort of floating clinic, and it was all free care for people. And so the people would come up, we would feed them, and give them medical care, and if it was something serious, then a referral. And I was the head of the music department, and my basic job was to walk around playing guitar, which is how I made my living for a number of years, singing for people. And every day, every week, they had a theme of the week, whether it was about good nutrition or exercise. So I decided to write songs that based upon each week. And I did that, and I was in acting class one day, or I was with some of my acting friends. I played one or two of those songs. They said, you know, you ought to try and get those songs onto Sesame Street. And
Wow.
I thought, I should get myself onto Sesame Street.
Right.
So I went to a dance costumer friend of mine with the idea of creating a character that would be able to sing these songs and talk about the body. And so we came up with this idea of Slim Goodbody. I had the suit made. And then I approached Sesame Street, but they weren't interested at all. In those days, it was strictly reading. I'm not even sure it was math then. I mean, it was early days. I just proceeded, and eventually I was on a couple of local TV shows because it's an interesting costume.
Wow.
I created a one-man show that I did for the floating hospital. I would go to schools and do this show, and I got some nice publicity. And then somebody eventually, I got hooked up with an agent, and they took me to in those days, Captain Kangaroo would do a single show around a topic for the whole show, and so I was going to be the topic. But it was strange. I mean, they came to see my show out in New Jersey in a local school, and the producer said, "Oh, it's great. We'll do a show featuring Slim." And I didn't hear anything for like 2 or 3 weeks, and
Wow.
and finally I called. You don't want to be too pushy, but
Right.
this was a big thing for me. I get on
Sure.
TV, and the guy said, Captain doesn't feel comfortable being on the set with a man in a naked suit.
Whoa.
Dash
Whoa.
jokes. Oh my gosh. But the guy was a super nice guy. He said, I feel so terrible. What can I do for you? And I said, well, he said, you can sell your songs to us. We have songs. I said, I'm really looking for an agent. He found me an agent. And then it turned out that Kraft Foods was looking to do something in the kids area, some kid show. So my agent put me together with a writer who had been at Captain Kangaroo. And he came up with this idea of Slim Goodbody in New City. The character itself was my idea, but sort of framing it, and I was already working as the character, but
Wow.
he framed it in a way that made it appealing, and we ended up going on Captain Kangaroo for about 4 years. And then off of that, I had some publicity. Somebody saw a story in TWA Flight magazine. TWA doesn't even exist anymore. I ended up doing a series for PBS, and then I did something for Nickelodeon, and it just kept, it sort of, I worked my butt off, and I just whatever I could make happen, I did. I wrote a lot of books and stuff like that, and that's kind of the career.
Yeah, I know it sounds like your career's so short, but you've had a very long career.
Yeah.
I remember the days of Captain Kangaroo, and we have so many options these days with TV and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. But that wasn't the case then, and Captain Kangaroo was a very big deal.
Oh yeah, he was the longest uh, lived kids show on TV in 25 years. Right? I mean, there were gatekeepers. There were 3 channels, right?
Right?
We had our three ABC, CBS, and NBC, and then there was a couple of local channels.
Sure.
But if you wanted to get, anywhere, you had to go through that, and it was just an amazingly lucky break for me. Um, that Captain Kangaroo thing happened. Gave me. Nowadays, I don't know. It's how somebody breaks through. It's just.
It's a real challenge.
It's a huge challenge. Yeah, I mean, I have a YouTube channel and with all my old stuff on it. But as you say, the competition out there is there's a gazillion places to put your eyeballs. In those days, there wasn't. Some ways it's very free. I mean, a lot of people don't have to go through those gates anymore.
Sure.
But it's got its challenges.
Sure.
I'm sort of glad I'm not dealing with that anymore.
Well, same. When I was back in the days when I was playing Barney, same
Yeah.
thing. We're on PBS.
Yeah.
There
Wow.
just wasn't as many options. Sesame Street and a couple others. So we kind of had the same thing.
So was that story true about Barney? I've always wondered. This is the one I heard that there was somebody in Connecticut who was head of like PBS in Connecticut who saw Barney and loved it, and that's how that was the key to making that happen.
That's exactly it. His name was Larry Rifkin.
Yeah.
And his daughter rented one of the videos
Wow.
for a sleepover with her friends that weekend, and he noticed that all the kids couldn't stop watching it, and he said, "I think there's something here," and he called the producers down in Texas.
Wow.
And yeah, it's exactly how it happened.
Wow.
Were you Barney right from the start?
So I started in 1991. I actually did birthday parties as Barney.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then there was another gentleman, his name David Joyner, and he was doing the TV show when it came on, and I did all the performances, like the sing-alongs and those kind of things. and then I did the tour for 5 years, and then I actually did Barney and Friends TV show for my goodness gracious 7 years.
Wow.
So it had an amazing run as well.
Amazing run. I mean, Slim never reached that kind of level. I mean, I had a very long. I mean, for me, it was great because I owned the whole thing, and my concept, and I was able to promote it. I did shows with symphony orchestras. I wrote books. I did a lot of stuff over the years, but never what Barney had. I mean, Barney was a phenomenon. It was amazing, and those you never know. It's like Farrah Fawcett,
Right.
like just explosive. How cool that must have been.
It was amazing.
Yeah, to ride that wave.
Yeah, it was amazing. Well, I find what you did fascinating. Did you expect to ever work with kids, to be in children's entertainment?
I mean, I think the very first, one of my earliest jobs, was a summer job as a puppeteer.
Wow.
So there was that. I think the first show I ever wrote and ever did was an American history. I was hired by some like youth theater company to do that. So yeah, I did. It wasn't, my goals were certainly not to work in children's theater. My goals were, like most actors, to be a Shakespearean actor.
Wow.
This was all, my whole plan was that I would do Slim to get an agent who would then get me to where I actually really wanted to go. But the character enabled me to do so much that I wanted to do. I mean, I was able to, there were many, many years, probably 20, 25 years, that I was able to come up with an idea and either pre-sell it or be very confident that I could sell it.
Yeah.
And then I could produce. So I ended up producing, like in my live shows, I had my Slim Goodbody show, and then I had a show on AIDS education when AIDS was a big issue. I had an environmental series that I did for TV, and then I had an environmental series. Then I did a show with symphony orchestras comparing the human body to a symphony orchestra, all parts working in harmony. Then I decided I would do another symphony show, and I did one on dinosaurs called Symphanosaurus, and then I did a dinosaur show, and then I, created many books. I'm not trying to blow my own horn here. What I'm trying to say is that I think all creative people have an impulse to create.
Yes, absolutely.
And I established a vehicle that was able to absorb that creativity. I mean, I toured the country in science museums, in planetariums with all the stars going everywhere. I had a space musical. So I was able to, and I would have never been able to do that had I been an actor. Unless I mean, actors don't control their own fates.
Exactly. I'll be right back. I have to come right back. I have no idea what to do. Come right back. I'm gonna pause it right here. Oh boy, I'm so sorry, folks. Well, change the plans, folks. We are originally gonna do me walking with Mo today, but today wasn't the day for me to walk with Mo, so instead it was just me and Mom to walk. So it'll be easier way than just do Mom and I then Mom and I walk, and that'll be Subway, eat fresh today, and that'll be an easier way. And once it get done, then we're gonna go. I have to tell Morgan that we're gonna go exercise some more tomorrow, so it'll be more easier. And than just today, and that way more easier. And then I have to work tomorrow, and that way I can have some fun, And yeah, without further ado, my butt's all stinky. But anyway, let's continue on. Continue in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Well, and I know I was in a big purple costume for 22 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
No one even saw my face, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
So that's so interesting. Then, so whatever happened? Did Barney just sort of wind down? Is it not doing anything anymore?
Not a whole lot. They're back on Universal Kids, and Amazon. You can see them on Amazon. They're owned by Mattel, so
Oh, they are.
they are. So he does performances here and there, but
Wow.
I think with the fact that there's just so many out there, he's not as popular.
Yeah.
I mean, you even see that with Sesame Street, right? They still
Yeah.
have to. Now they have to compete with a huge competition that they didn't have.
I met a guy down in Beckway, where we have this home, who got the rights to Peppa Pig.
Oh, Peppa Pig. Yeah, that Family Guy joke. Inside Out. Continue on.
It's like enormous.
Yep.
That's the thing. You get. So, it's, I don't know. So I end up, let's say maybe, so I'm 70.
Wow.
I would say, for a long time, I had actors going out to do my shows in schools. There was one time, at one point, I had 7 actors going out. We probably did 1,500 shows a year.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it wasn't enormous, but it was complicated.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, and then gradually we pulled back from that, and I just had 2 actors and then 1 actor, and then I tried to license it to see somebody. You run out of steam after a while. So I loved what I did. I'm thrilled that I was able to do it. I got a call just recently, an email from some guy, and it said, "New Slim Goodbody series possibility." I'm always leery of those kind of things.
Sure.
The guy said, "I am the president of a cannabinoid company, and we're thinking about a Slim Goodbody series where there's a new system called the cannabinoid system in the body." And believe it or not, at first I thought, I'm not answering this guy. This is like wacko stuff.
Right.
In terms, actually, I went online and I looked up this cannabinoid system, and we have 25 years ago, they were trying to figure out why pot worked.
Wow.
So they did some investigation. They found out that there are these receptor cells in your body that THC, the active ingredient in marijuana, activates, and that has to do with appetite and the kinds of stuff. They found out that there's this huge system in the human body that's connected to chemicals that are released that are identical, sort of structurally, or fairly close to cannabis plant.
Right.
Wow.
And so I thought, well, that's really strange. I would come back for that. Not to be promoting smoking dope, but be able to just create something there. I think that's the thing I miss the most. I'm working on a show now, a musical on the Second Amendment.
Oh. Wow.
So
But artists have to always create.
you got to create.
What you see me with a podcast, I just
Wow.
there's the need
Exactly.
to get out there and to create, and I love it so much. One of the things that I find so fascinating about what you did is talking about exercise and the way we eat and the body. But back when you were doing it, it wasn't as big of a deal as it is now.
Oh no, nowhere near. I mean, the idea of holistic health.
Yes.
I was at the very first holistic health conference ever. I was there when they were sort of inventing the word, almost holistic health. Yeah, it was. First of all, health was always there.
Right.
But
not like it is now.
Not like it is now. But in some ways, it just also strikes me. I did a series in 1987, I think, called somewhere around there, called All Fit. It was an exercise series, based upon the fact that kids were obese, and that was 1987.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so people knew, but there was not the same kind. I mean, so really two things. One is that the problems have always been there.
Yes.
Two, people weren't addressing them, and three, even though you are addressing them, it doesn't necessarily make a change.
Right.
The, the key is always how do you motivate people to take action.
Yeah. And don't you think it's even harder now with, especially for kids with, they seem to want to stay in the house. They don't want to get
Wow.
out like we used to, and so it's a lot of video games and YouTubes and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And then the mindless eating, I think, is another thing. You just don't even realize what you're doing. Are those issues that you've tried to later on with some Goodbody address?
Yeah. I mean, I have to that point. I mean, I've done shows on being media literacy. I've done shows on, but it's hard. You're teaching on TV, excuse me,
Sure.
and you're telling them not to watch TV. So
Right.
that's kind of, I came to terms a long time ago
Mm-hmm.
that my effect, given the massive amounts of money that are spent in this country on promoting, sugary drinks and crummy food, junk food, and stuff, that my ability to influence anything was, the minuscule. And once I sort of accepted that it was minuscule, I just did what I could.
Sure.
If I made any, I've gotten a lot of people over the years who said, you're really influential in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that that's really true. I think that people just sort of say that because they want to be
Oh,
kind.
I bet it is true. I've gotten it too, and I think you'd be surprised. You have probably hit several people that you didn't even realize.
It could be that something happened and there was a significant. I mean, my just crazy stories that my I have a nephew's in the CIA, and his boss loved me and asked for a picture. So, but I do get it. I mean, I get emails from people who say you influenced me so much, and you're right. Maybe I did. Maybe there was.
I think you did. I remembered you. I mean, I very much remember it, and you can't. I don't think you can have a career as long as you did
Yep.
and not affect people.
Yeah, that's probably true. And I was on the side of the good guy side. My whole thing was, I used to encapsulate it with sort of like your body is full of wonders, right? Your heart, everything that makes you wonderful. And if you're wonderful, you want to take care of this wonderful being who you are. Um, and I think, I mean, that was the place I was coming from. I was an old hippie. I mean,
Wow.
my growth came out of a movement, of a consciousness raising sort of movement where I was always felt like I was promoting this idea of caring and love and self-respect and it's okay just who you are. I mean, it was always my strongest underlying message of everything I did. And maybe, I guess some kid could be sitting around and in a crummy situation or not feeling particularly happy, and then I say something.
Well, I think it's because we went through it, right? With Barney, the same. We were teaching him messages about unconditional love.
Exactly.
And really, we had the same thing where we would have an audience say, I don't like you. I don't believe you, or I don't. How can you just unconditionally love, or how can you, that I love you song drives me nuts.
Wow.
But we knew we were still getting to people, and so we just keep going. And I'm listening to you, and it's funny how all the messages you were talking about, I think, are more prevalent than ever today.
Well, certainly the need for them remains. The rock bottom feeling we want our children to feel good. We want our children to be healthy. We want them to feel good. We want them to love them. To have degree of self-love and to have a degree of confidence in themselves. They have to weather. Sometimes you feel that they're walking through a storm, and so much pressure on them.
Excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
very difficult on kids these days. And this is obviously a very tough time right now with what's going on with COVID.
Yeah.
And I know we mentioned you did a video for this. I have found that for kids, it's really difficult.
Yeah.
It's really thrown their schedules off. Everything they know is being out of school, and now it's summer, but it felt like you already had summer, and are we going to go back to school? And then their minds and their bodies and all of that. So what did you do with this video? What was the message you were getting across?
Well, first, the most important message was the one I ended with, which was, look, this is a problem, but you have an incredibly strong immune system. Your body is built to be healthy. So, yes, there's a problem, but you're going to be okay. So the message was, that was how I ended it. But along the way, I explained through diagrams. I mean, and I had a lot of adults write me and said, I didn't realize, what COVID-19 stands for.
Exactly.
The corona, CO, and virus, and D for disease, and 19 for the year it was invented. The year it came. So, you always believe that giving information, appropriate information, is helpful. As long as you temper it, and you try to make it age appropriate. For me, always age appropriate, and tempered with a good-hearted, just to find a way to get through. I used to play pool as a kid.
Wow.
And there's something that you can do with a cue ball. It's called putting English on it. You hit it off, and it spins a certain way. And my whole career was a matter of putting English on. I never taught anything that anybody else couldn't have taught, but I was always looking for, how do I put the English on this? How do I put the spin on this that will catch a kid in a place that they don't know that it's coming at them, and therefore it doesn't feel like I'm preaching.
Right.
I'm finding a way in.
Wow.
As an example, just because I'm dealing with this now, so I wanted to do a show on the Second Amendment. I didn't really want to, but I was talking to somebody, and they were talking about gun violence. And
Wow.
You can't put anything out right now, because the second you put out anything about guns, you're going to have people who want to grab guns and people who think that they should be able to have any gun they want. I mean, there's such a. So I was trying to think, how do I find a way through?
Mm-hmm.
And it then occurred to me that the Second Amendment, well, I'm going to personify the Second Amendment, but then it occurred to me that the Second Amendment is only 27 words long.
Wow.
Only 27 words has created this mountain of dissension. And I thought that was a really interesting idea. That was in English that I could put on. That's a spin that I could write a song, for instance, about that, and nobody, whether you're on the side of having no guns or your side of every gun, that's a moment where you just look and say, oh, I didn't know that.
Wow.
And just that moment where they say, oh, I didn't know that, is the opening. You can't take it. And that's what I did with Slim, as much as I could.
Did you find it was easier to get your message across through song?
I did, but I don't. That and Amazing Facts, but I don't know anymore, Chris. I mean,
it's Carey.
Carey.
I'm Carey.
Go.
No, it's no problem.
My dad's name is Chris, by the way. Continue on.
I'm gonna go ahead. No problem. I'm gonna ask you that question again. That's all right.
Go ahead.
So, did you find that it was easier to get your message across through song?
Yes, I did, Carey. Because Yes, clearly it is because it's much more affective. You're dealing with both sides of the brain when you do that. Um, I think songs are more memorable. I mean, when I was a kid, we had a TV commercial that went, "You'll wonder where the yellow went when you brush your teeth with Pepsodent." I can tell
Wow.
people my age now, you wonder where the yellow went when you, and they will remember. They remember it because our brain links information in a different way when it's put to music. I
Wow.
found that was a very effective way of teaching. But maybe there were other. That's what I did. That's what I did. I look back now, and even today, I still try to teach through song, but I don't know anymore if that's my habit. I
Right.
don't know if it's the best.
Well, it was obviously very big for us. For
It was
Barney,
very big for us.
very big for
Mm.
Barney, and you've seen that with these other shows as
Yeah.
well.
Mm-hmm.
And it came, and for Sesame Street. I mean, we come out of that. I think we have to look at it and say that Sesame Street was the father or the mother of all of us. Yes, there were. I when I was a kid, I loved Soupy Sales, and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
there were other stuff. But I mean,
Right.
this trend of or Mr. Rogers, actually Mr. Rogers too.
Yeah.
Kind of loving music. There was a there, I don't know.
I, I think you find a common theme that
Yeah,
these shows picked up on
they did.
music and how important it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What is it like now? I don't watch a lot of
I think
stuff.
I think there is. I try to keep up. I try to keep up with going on. I think it's a lot faster. I think the everything's quicker these days, and it's a lot more um, production involved. I always thought it was amazing when I would do Barney sing-alongs. It would just be Barney on a stage with
Well,
his songs, and
Yeah.
that was it. We didn't have
Isn't-
lights and dancers and all that, and we'd have 15,000 people come out to see Barney just singing his songs to the kids.
Wow.
and it was great. It was. It's. How does one even figure assimilate that piece of information? That all it takes. I mean, in the end, what is this all? It's a story. It's storytelling. It's the guy who sits around the campfire and everybody listens. It's Barney by himself singing a song, and it was like Raffy. That's another one. Raffy, he could just walk. It didn't have to do anything. But it's amazing that works.
Mm-hmm.
It's really amazing because it's kids. You can understand. Wanted to think about like some solo performer going out there, and he becomes trendy, or she becomes, or
Right.
some costume becomes
Wow.
trendy, and everybody thinks they like it because all of their friends think they like it. But for kids, they actually have to really like it. They're not
Wow.
pretending.
Right.
Just 15,000 kids are not sitting pretending. So where would you do these? Where would you do these massive?
We did that one was in Minnesota at the state fairgrounds, and it was one of 3 shows.
Wow.
15,000 per show for a 30-minute sing-along. I've never seen anything like it, and they were doing all of the movements together. Mr. Knickerbocker and Airplane and all that stuff, and it's the most incredible thing. And I think
Wow.
we would sing that "I Love You" song,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing you're talking about, right? So we're singing the song, but at the end, great big hug and a kiss from me to you, and they would hug their parent and kiss their parent,
Wow.
Beautiful.
and it's just what they started doing. I thought that was the incredible thing is that
Yeah,
they
they
take that
did.
from that song, and the kids started doing that,
Uh,
and I think it's a beautiful thing. I'm really curious. So over the years, did your audience influence what shows you did or what topics you talked about?
Not my audience. The world around me influenced it. When we hit the AIDS epidemic, and people were scared about that, I dealt with environmental movement got strong, I did that. Um, and obviously in this last video with the COVID, I mean, I think that sort of it was a combination. Either I had an interest in it, and I thought it would be cool, or it was a societal issue that I thought maybe kids there was room for, you know,
Yeah.
there was room for Slim to have a say. Not that I ever thought that I had that, you know. I constantly have to. I mean, I was a working actor. I was a working performer. I mean, I wasn't doing this completely in any kind of altruistic way.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have made my living being a mean guy that hurts people. But,
Yeah.
you know, I was looking for opportunities, you know, to create. But the kids, I've always felt, people have always said to me over the years, so, you know, do you find today's kids much different? And I say no. I don't, because not at the age that I deal with them, you know, not up to third, fourth, and fifth grade. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're on their phones, and they're quicker, as you said before, but they're beautiful beings. They're little beings, and if you are a performer, you can find your way in. You know, you can capture their attention. That's always what you want to do. And so I guess the only thing I did change, probably, as you say, is I probably changed some of the production values in terms of quicker cuts, maybe, in something. Well, you also get influenced by the world around you.
Right.
So.
And we did near the later days. You know, Barney all of a sudden got a laptop and things of that nature.
Wow.
So we would do the same thing. You know,
do you miss it? Do you miss performing as Barney?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I actually got back in last year and did an event. I hadn't done one in 8 years. And they flew me up to Connecticut. One of the gentlemen was retiring, and so they wanted Barney up there, and it was a pretty amazing experience. That as soon as I became the character, everyone comes to you. You know, everyone knows who Barney is. The crew comes, all the dancer, everyone comes, and they want to tell Barney their stories.
Which I reacted to back on Purple Tales podcast on Carey Stinson on LJPCBM one time. Continue on.
Oh, interesting.
You know, oh, my grandbaby, or I took it to this show, or my daughter, and I, you know, I think it's very cool that you realize that you touch people, and it's got to be something for you because you obviously touch people as well.
Yeah, I mean it. Yeah, I mean.
Do people recognize you?
No, not anymore. That's for sure. It was never very big. There was, I mean, people related to the suit far more than they did to the person. The suit and the afro I used to have.
Excuse me.
I do remember that. What
like
was
Bob Ross afro?
I remember. So talk about the suit. I mean, how long did that take to create? Did you go through several models?
Yeah, as that started out, the very first one was I went to a friend of my sister's, and she was a modern dancer. She danced with a company called Paul Taylor, which was a very big dance company in New York. And she turned me on to a woman named Betty Williams, who was their costume designer. And I went into Betty, and we talked over this costume. And so they made me a white leotard, and then I laid down, and she painted it on me.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Dyes, you know, and I had to lie there. I mean, she sketched it up, and it was very simple, but effective. And so that's the suit I used, and that was probably $300-400 at the time, and that was a long time ago.
Wow.
And then, as you fiddle with things, you think, well, you know, maybe if I do this, I could add this and make it look a little nicer.
Right.
I would go.
Wow.
I think I probably had about 8 or 9 iterations of, maybe not that many, maybe 7 iterations of the suit. I eventually went to a customer who does all Broadway stuff. You know, made the costumes with Lion King and everything. I mean, I worked with them for years.
Wow.
Eventually, we tried to make it a little bit more uniform-like, where it had bigger shoulders and a little cuff thing. Like, oh, I know where that came from. They did Star Trek Next Generation costumes. So it
Wow.
started to move into Star Trek Next Generation. There was a costume for Captain Kangaroo where we tried to actually blend it into my body so it looked like my body and not a costume. I gave that up after a while. Yeah, so I had a Slenda. I don't know if you knew that. I had a woman Slim Goodbody for a couple of years.
I don't remember that.
I had a series on Nickelodeon called Bodybuilders.
Wow.
In cooperation with the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports, and it was 1-minute exercises that you could do. So I had Slenda, and she had my costume, and then I did another series, this All Fit series. It was really funny. I mean, I had an exercise segment in the series. The series taught them about all the aspects of what physical fitness is, which includes, which when you study it, it has to do with coordination and speed and agility and balance and endurance, and it's not just it's a curriculum with many things. So I focused on that, but I wanted to actually have a class, and I wasn't an aerobics teacher. You know, I wasn't. I mean, I took aerobic classes, but so I hired a woman, Terry, who put on my suit, and she did the exercise segment. So I had costumes, a woman's costume, not much different, but just in size.
Did that first costume, was that the one that you wore on Captain Kangaroo?
No, I never. No, because by the time Captain Kangaroo then I got money.
Right.
Wow.
I didn't have a lot of money. They said, we're going to put you on Captain Kangaroo and let's make a contract. And one of the points of my contract is, okay, and then I'm going to get a new suit, right? And so every year that I went back on, I would, not every year, but I would get a new suit
Wow.
based on that, having somebody else pay for it. Eventually, they started costing $2,000, $3,000, $4,000.
Wow.
Really expensive.
Did your so I'm curious, did the exercises change over the years? Did the what you told people to eat, did that change as we
what changed
things?
is, when I first started out, there were the food groups.
Sure.
And then it became the food pyramid. And then it became my plate. So the way of presenting the information, the packaging changed. So, of course, I changed my packaging because I was in line with that. When I started out, people would do sit-ups. Then that's not a good thing for your back, so you cut that out. So mostly it stayed the same. It's just there were probably a few examples. The one about nutrition, moving from the food pyramid to my plate, was probably the biggest change.
So the food changed probably more than the exercise, the different types of exercise.
Yeah. The exercise. I think the same. Strength and aerobics, muscular strength, endurance, and aerobics are pretty much the key to good health. You do need to get your heart rate up. That didn't change. I think it's certainly more accepting now than it was when I was coming up, that taking a lot of good walks has pretty much the same effect as jogging. If you just get out there and move, that's changed, but it didn't ever change for the kids. Kids need exercise. To get back to an earlier point that you said, they're sitting at home. I'm pushing, they should be at least an hour a day of active play. I have no idea what they're doing. So
it's hard. Yeah, when I was a kid, I didn't want to be in the house. But
right. They had to call you in, right? They had to call you. Now, you didn't grow up in Texas, did you?
I did. Well, when I was 10. I've lived here ever since I was 10 years old. I was born in Washington, D.C.
But you sure don't have a Texas accent.
No, well, I traveled a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When I was on the Barney tour, I was basically gone for 5 years. It was city to city to city to city to city,
Living in hotel rooms?
living in hotel rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that's a tough life.
It had its challenges, but you know,
It was fine. I mean, you were in.
well, the effect that it had on kids,
Yeah.
it's the same kind of thing. Um, you see this, just you don't even expect it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we
Did you
did.
travel around the world, or was it all U.S.?
No, traveled around the world. We actually took that show, Barney's Big Surprise, down to Mexico,
Mm.
Puerto Rico, all over Canada. We went to the UK with it. With Barney, I've gone to Panama and Australia, and so he went all over the place.
Oh.
Did you have? I never saw the show. Were there dancers in it and characters?
So it was I did two of them, Barney's Big Surprise and Barney's Musical Castle, and they'd have four dancers and then the other costume characters, and we traveled with four kids too, kid actors.
Really?
Yeah, which was a challenge. We'd bring a parent. They'd bring a parent and a teacher with them.
Of course.
But we would be out, 3 months, go home for a week, and then back for another 3 months.
Wow.
The toughest part about all that is that those kids can only go to a point before they're too big,
Yeah.
and so you get to know them, and then you've got to say goodbye, and that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough for a kid to explain to them that you've done nothing wrong. It's just you've grown up.
Wow.
I mean, that's you read those the stories of the kid actors who have grown out. Those can be very tough.
It was.
Suddenly, have you ever heard any more from any of them? Did you ever keep in contact with any of those kid actors?
I have, and in fact, I've had them on some of these shows.
Oh, cool.
So it's been really fun, and it's very interesting to hear their perspective. Some of them wanted to keep being actors, and some of them it was fun for them at the time, and then they never wanted to do it again. So
Are any still actors now?
several of them. I don't know if you know, but Selena Gomez and Demi Lovato.
Oh, really?
Both of them were on with me. Yeah.
Wow.
Barney and Friends. So, yeah, several of them have turned out to be big stars.
That's very cool.
So, what advice would you give? Because as an actor, I went through no, and I think it's so interesting your whole point about English, because finding that way, especially back then, finding your way to having a career.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to people that are interested
in
being
a
an
career?
actor? Yeah,
being an actor.
Or a musician, or just
Yeah. To make their career to make their career in some performing arts.
Yes.
I think it's very complicated. I mean, first of all, it's probably the most fulfilling when you have the opportunity to work your craft.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to almost any other. First of all, okay, let me back it up. If you want to be an actor, you better have a passion. If you don't have a passion, if you think that it's sort of, wouldn't that be cool?
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest getting out of it, because your heart is going to be broken. It is incredibly difficult. But if you have a passion, you stick with it. I guess here's my advice: if a man can make a living for 40 years dressed in a costume that looks like the inside of the human body, there is limitless possibilities for you or somebody else to do something that you never know what is coming down the pike. You never know, what you're able to do. Your story in Barney. Somebody's watching a TV show and a kid's party, and it turns into a mega phenomenon. So and trust. But the thing is, if somebody wants to be an actor, they don't don't need my words. They're just gonna push forward for as long as they can. Um, and I guess the other thing would be, I mean, I'm blabbing away here, but I'm thinking
No,
about.
it's you'd be surprised. It's important. We get a lot of people that watch this and want to be, or trying, and have kind of hit those roadblocks. And I think it's fascinating. You kind of found a way around it.
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
I did. I was fortunate, but very fortunate. Um, but now with opportunities to do
Mm.
things, on YouTube and stuff, it's not necessarily that it's going to make you a big star, but you can. Part of acting and part of being a performer is developing your skills. To
Right.
honing your talent. And
Mm.
fortunately, you guys who are watching have something that I didn't have. You have a platform where you can get something out
Right.
to people, and that's a huge advantage. I mean, you're facing a gazillion other people.
Sure.
That downside, but
Sure.
the upside is you've got a stage, you've got one, and that's pretty remarkable.
Mhm.
When did you realize that Slim Goodbody was going to keep going? Was there a point where you went, oh, okay, look, I think I've got something here?
Um, I guess I created the character about 1974, so it's
Wow.
almost 50 years.
Wow.
Wow.
Um, Captain Kangaroo came. Uh, my shows were going well. I started doing PBS. I would say certainly by 1978, I knew that I had hit it enough
Wow.
so that I had a critical mass behind me. Critical mass of audience, critical mass of money, critical mass of notoriety that I could continue. And then in
Wow.
1979, I did my first show with the Philadelphia Symphony, the Pittsburgh, no, not Pittsburgh, Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra. I
Wow.
did my own show with a 85-piece
Wow.
symphony orchestra,
Mm.
my music, and I'm on the stage. And it was like, okay, well, yeah, I'm sticking with
Mm.
this. I'm sticking with this one. Look what I'm able to do. And that was. But that came apart. Just I was like with you. I was doing some luncheon for some, for I'd been on TV, so I was hired to by some what was it, like a department store. They were having a luncheon or something, and I was like the guest speaker, and I was just kidding around and singing and doing my shtick. And somebody came up and
Wow.
said, "How would you like to do a show with a symphony?"
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I didn't know what I was doing, but that's the other thing. Of course, you always say yes, but I'm sure
Right.
actors know that you never say no. You just, even if you have no idea what you're doing, you just say, "Please, yeah." Are you
Yeah.
kidding? Ah. So
It's so funny. That's becoming a common theme on this show. Um, when I was doing it, I had done appearances for them, and then they said, "Can you dance?" And I said, "Sure, I can." I can't dance. I had to go to my mother, who's a professional dancer, and she taught me all the dance movements. Um, I recently had one of the Wiggles on
yeah,
from Australia, and she couldn't sing. But they said, "Can you sing?" "Sure, I can sing." And they, she faked it enough until,
you
she got.
figured it out.
You figure it out. You're not going to turn down a job.
No,
No.
exactly.
When did you realize? Because for me, when I first started, it was a job. But then I realized that I was affecting people's lives. I was affecting kids' lives, and it became something
Like a
so
mission.
much more. Yeah, like a mission. When did you realize that you were affecting people's lives?
I knew it was. I gotta say. I mean, I the only way I can. I'm not sure. The only thing I can look back and say is when did I stop feeling that I was doing something that I should be doing something else rather than what I was doing. You
Mm.
know, when did I stop feeling, oh damn, I really should be on Broadway, or I should be, in the Shakespeare Festival, Connecticut. And I think that I turned the corner on that pretty early on, when probably 1980, so about 4 years into Slim. But I came back when I now I live in I live in Maine, and 4 or 5 years ago I did Prospero in the Outdoor Shakespeare Festival. I got a chance to do my Shakespeare, and I wrote
Wow.
an adult musical, and I got a chance to do that. And
How was that? Was that fulfilling?
oh, it was so great. I have such a great musical. I had just the people loved it. It was terrific. But then the other thing is you have to see. I always produce my own stuff. I'm different than a lot of people. I never try to raise money from other people. I always self-funded because I was successful enough to self-fund after my beginning stages. So um, so I could always create and I could always produce my own material. I got an idea, I had enough money, or
Mhm.
so with this night kitchen thing that I did, even though that has kids title to it, it was a grown-up show. Um, I produced it, but I did it wrong. I produced it with 14 actors, 13 actors, and although it was very successful locally, and I took it to the Portland stage, which is an equity stage here, and it was the business. You can't be stupid about business. And a 13 show, 13 people cast musical, given
Mhm.
the environment in which theater is done in this country,
Mhm.
you can't do it. I mean, if you have the money on Broadway to do it, you have the money on Broadway, but you got to keep your cast down 4, 5, 6 people, and to make it practical. So while the show was wonderful, and I have video of it, and I wish I could actually do it again, but that's also part of life, isn't it?
Mhm.
You got to say bye to every
Yeah.
lovely, creative. I have shows that I loved. I had a show. It wasn't Barney, but it was called Dinosaur Days, and
Wow.
there was the basic theme was that this guy named Tyrone. That wasn't so clever, but Tyrannosaurus is going through the
Oh.
forest and comes upon an egg, and he's just about to crush the egg and eat it when out pops a baby brontosaurus, who
Wow.
calls him mommy. And the show is all about him coming to terms with his feeling that he's a strong guy, but now he's being called mommy by somebody,
Right.
and his I mean it's a musical, and I have some wonderful music in it, but I'll never do it again, ever. It's gone, and
Wow.
I could start crying now because that's part of you know, but that's
But don't you
thank God
just
I did it.
you leave it out there, right? I mean, some of the work like that, you kind of create and you just sometimes you just leave it out there.
Yeah, well, you can't, it's over.
Right.
It's it's seen its day. But then you start to think, of course, or I do. Whenever I get to,
Mhm.
well, you start to think about how many thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces, plays that have been out there, wonderful material from the 1700s, the 1800s, the Greeks, the the 1300s. I mean, all of this great material that has been created. It's like we're in a boat, right? And a motorboat, and it's all in the wake behind you, all this great stuff, and that's just part of
Mhm.
part of the creative process. It's like giving birth to a kid who gets up and eventually leaves.
Yeah.
And the trouble with a kid, though, at least you can call him an old show. You save the props for a while, and the mice get in, and then that's the end of the show, and you never do it again.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just blab here.
No. I find it interesting. So,
Yeah.
what would you say your biggest song was? What was the song that everyone reacted to?
Probably Lubba Dubba.
Can you sing some Lubba Dubba?
Uh, well,
Not meaning to put you on the spot, even though I just
well,
did.
not a great, it just it had a background beat.
Okay.
It was like an old one. And the kids would go, love, they would keep it going. Pump, pump, pump goes your heart. Love, sending blood on his rub, 80 beats a minute. 115,000 beats in one day. Without it, we would surely die. And that is the reason why I'm here to sing about your heart. So that was that kind of. I mean, that was so early on. It's so silly.
John, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, that was really sweet of you, and thanks for inviting me. I had a really nice time.
Well, I enjoyed it too. It brought back so many good memories, and I always love hearing how other performers found their way, and you've got an amazing story.
All right. Well, all the best to you, and stay well. And maybe we could do a Slim Goodbody Barney concert sometime.
I would love it. I would love it.
We should talk about that. I'm serious. We should do a YouTube. Maybe we could. Well, you have to speak to your people, but it would be fun. It would be really fun to do something.
It would. It would. Well, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for watching Purple Roads. Remember to keep your eyes, ears, and your heart open, and you'll find your Purple Road. We'll see you next week.
So that was Purple Roads, episode 28. John Burstein, Slim Goodbody. What do I think about this episode? It was amazing. So far, this episode went to be a success. Anyways, guys, that wraps up LJPCBM episode number 543. Hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned for the next one, which is going to be Purple Roads episode number 29. Josh Martin, the actor who played Barney at the time, and he also did Dragon Ball Z. Till next time, so Jefferson, goodbye, peace out, baby. We get more to react to guys very soon. Till then, Jefferson out. See ya.
Given unto me this life I'll never take for granted, and given all the time I failed to really understand it, I never sought to meet the maker of reality, the one who gave the life that which is always happening, but I tried all the time. I ask, why me? Why was I the one to see things as I do under the moonlight and the sun? Perception is the question, and the giver holds the key.